Hello everyone, today we will discuss about ETC. We all know about ETC little bit, that it is the main machinery system to reproduce ATP, which is our main energy currency. So we understand ETC under four main question mark, that is what, where, how and why. Let's start first with what. That means what is ETC or what ETC does. Whenever we take food, actually three major components remain in our food, that is fat, carbs and protein. Then this food undergo a digestion or absorption mechanism by our digestive system, and then they convert into their simplest format, that is fatty acid or glycerol, glucose and amino acid. By some mean like maybe acetyl coenzyme A, then go to TCA cycle, or maybe beta oxidation, they actually produce reducing equivalents. Their main motto is to produce reducing equivalents. Why? Because this reducing equivalents is the only thing which go to the ETC, and this ETC, with the help of this reducing equivalent, convert oxygen into water, and ADP with the help of phosphorus, extra inorganic phosphorus, they convert into the ATP, right? So here ETC or respiratory chain which come into existence. Now let's see where ETC actually present in the cell. In our cell, there have a special organelle that is called mitochondria, which is a two-layered, two-membrane system that it have one outer membrane, one inner membrane, and in between they are separated by intermembrane space, and every membrane or intermembrane space have special enzymes for specific biological reactions, right? So they have some example, like intermembrane space have adenyl kinase, matrix also have enzyme for TCA cycle or enzyme for beta oxidation. Outer membrane also have some enzyme for like acetyl coenzyme A synthesis. But our main focus is to understand ETC. So the enzymes for ETC is mainly present in inner membrane space. Inner membrane. Actually they are embedded in inner membrane, right? So there have also some membrane transporters. This membrane transporter also come into action in ETC. They are all embedded in inner membrane. Now let's see how this whole ETC system works. Okay, now we are discussing about how ETC take place. This is a most important part of our discussion, that how actually ETC works. So we have discussed previously that inner mitochondria, inward matrix, then inner mitochondrial membrane, and then intermembrane space. We have already discussed that four major protein which are responsible to form ETC in inner mitochondrial membrane. These all four mitochondrial protein, inner membrane protein, are sequentially arranged. They actually follow a specific rule in their arrangement. They are not haphazardly arranged. Okay. Then what happened? Whenever these like NADH or succinate like substrate, they come and they give their electron to this complex, like complex first, complex second. They have a specific name, we will discuss later. then whenever they give or they hand over their electron to this complex, actually what happened, we all know that free electron have very high energy. Whenever they get this free electron, they already reach their higher energy state, and any molecule in this universe can't stay in this high energy state. They have to go back in their stable conformation, right? So whenever they go to their stable conformation, they release this extra amount of energy. This extra amount of energy, this extra amount of energy do? This extra amount of energy extract proton from matrix toward intermembrane space. Okay, so this substrate come, they hand over its electron to complex first. This complex first rise its energy, but it can't stay at that high energy level, so it want to be stabilized. Now this energy release, and this energy actually pull proton, 4 proton from matrix toward intermembrane space. Now this electron go to a transporter. This transporter actually they also deliver this electron to complex third, and this complex third also go to in higher energy state, but he says no, I can't stay in that state, so he also want to be stabilized. Now what he do, actually he come back to their stabilized format and release extra amount of energy. This extra amount of energy extract 4 hydrogen, means 4 proton from matrix to the intermembrane space. You also know that if we extract electron from hydrogen, then it become a proton, right? So proton is expressed like a hydrogen plus type manner. We all know that from chemistry. Then this electron now go to a cytochrome C. Cytochrome C, it is also a transporter protein, right? So when electron go to the cytochrome C, this is actually a soluble protein. They actually give their electron to complex 4, right? Complex 4 already go to their higher energy state when they get this electron, but he says no, I also can't stay in that form. I also want to be stabilized. So what he does, he actually extract 4 amount of proton from matrix, but oxygen say, oh, 4 amount of proton, no, you please give me 2 amount of proton, because I need it to formation of water. So he says, okay, you take 2 amount of proton. When he give 2 amount of proton to the oxygen, then other 2 proton he throw back in intermembrane space, right? So total 10 amount of proton collected in intermembrane space. Now you can understand that matrix part of the mitochondria become negative and intermembrane space become more positive. So one electromotive force generated across this inner membrane space, right? Okay, now one part, that complex 2. You say that you illustrate all these, but you can't illustrate this one. Yeah, actually succinate type substrate give their electron to complex 2. Okay, so they are more susceptible to give their electron to complex 2. Why? I will discuss it later. So they directly give their electron to complex 2, not to complex 1. Then it give to Q. but there no change in energy, so they can't extract proton from matrix. Means complex 2 can't extract any proton from matrix because there have no energy change. If there have no energy change, then how it can extract proton? Okay, now what happened, this electromotive force actually pull this proton which accumulate in intermembrane space into the matrix to neutralize this force, right? So they have a pump actually. This is called ATP synthase, and this pump actually rotate this when this proton come in contact with this pump actually, which is embedded in inner mitochondrial membrane, that is F0, these rotate and they come back into matrix, and when they come back into matrix, this ADP and phosphate join and form ATP. Now all those protons can't come into matrix through this mechanism. Some are some are cross this, but they release their energy as a heat, right? So this is not in our discussion, not in our part of our discussion. So they are called as a uncoupling reaction. They actually release as a heat. Okay. So complex first named as a NADHQ oxidoreductase. Now you can understand this name. As you know the whole mechanism, you can understand their name better. Like complex first is called NADHQ oxidoreductase. NADHQ, like see, NADH, it give actually electron from NADH to the Q. Like NADH give it electron, so it is oxidized. Q take this electron, so it is reduced. Now what complex 1 is called? NADHQ oxidoreductase. You can guess what may be the name of complex second, that is succinate Q oxidoreductase. Why? Because it take electron from succinate, give electron to Q, so it is called succinate Q oxidoreductase. Complex third is called as Q2 cytochrome C oxidoreductase, right? Complex 4 is called as a cytochrome C oxidase, right? Okay. Complex fourth actually oxidase. Why? Because it help to formation of water from oxygen. Okay, so you already should know that complex fourth have actually 2 copper center and 2 heme protein, that is cytochrome A and cytochrome A3. Actually they handle over this electron from QA to cytochrome A, and then QB means Q means copper A to cytochrome A, and then copper B to cytochrome A3, such a manner. Okay, and you also should remember that complex first and complex second is a flavoprotein. Okay, and complex third and complex fourth is a hemoprotein, and complex first, complex second and complex third have Fe or iron sulfur center. Okay, now you should know about ATP synthase enzyme. Actually they have a special mechanism in ATP synthase by which ATP is formed. It is not as simple as that ki proton come and it rotate and ATP form. Not like that. They have a special structure of ATP synthase which is very specific. Let's see this structure. Actually this is the F0 part, this C disc, actually it is the F0 part, and all those things which is not embedded into the membrane, it is F1 part. Okay, so when proton come, when proton come, this disk rotate. As this disk rotate, this handle means which is work like a bridge from F0 to F1. This bridge actually fit into the F1, and when it rotate, it also rotate. But this portion like 3 beta or 3 alpha subunit can't rotate. Why? You can see this type of arrangement. For this arrangement, they are stable with membrane, so they can't rotate. But this fit into this with this subunit, so this all gamma rotate with C disc, but they can't rotate. So when this gamma rotate, actually what happened, their conformation change with the push of gamma, right? So as their conformation change with the push of gamma, this conformation change with push, they help to join actually ADP with phosphate, right, and form ATP. This is actual mechanism how ATP synthesis form ATP, and when time come, they can break down ATP into ADP and phosphate, right? Now the last part of our discussion, that is why ETC, that means logic behind ETC. Actually, we all know this equation, that is delta G naught is equal to minus NF and delta E naught. That is a basic equation from chemistry. According to me, this equation is more than sufficient to explain ETC alone, because delta G naught is change in standard free energy, right? Delta N is equal to how much electron transfer between these oxidation and reduction pair, and then F is the Faraday constant, and delta E naught is the reducing potential change between this couple, means oxidizing and reducing couple. So if we calculate that ADP and phosphate convert into ATP, so how much free energy change actually? So this is plus 7.3 kilocalorie per mole. And if we calculate for one pair of electron from NADH to oxygen, means one pair of electron go from NADH to oxygen, how much free energy change? That is 52.6 kilocalorie. So if we multiply it by 3, so it is more than sufficient from this will be 21.6 kilocalorie per mole. So this much energy is formed from ATP, which may store, which come into work, but other energy go to waste, and they are like uncoupling reaction. So I have told you previously that all those complex are placed in such a manner that they follow a rule. Actually they follow reducing potential values, actually which placed more prior in inner mitochondrial membrane. It is most negative reducing potential value it have, and oxygen is most positive one. Actually it has more negative one. That means what? It have more power to reduce another, and oxygen has least power, so it placed last in ETC. So if I am talking about let's suppose we place complex third in place of complex first, so what happened? It was unable to oxidize NADH, right? And if succinate to oxidize succinate or to take electron from succinate, they have not necessary so much negative reducing potential, so much high reducing power. So yeah, they have complex second to take electron from succinate. They have no need of complex one, right? So actually they follow a reducing potential value. So which one is placed prior? They are more negative, they are more powerful, and which plays more last, they have more positive reducing potential. Okay. And this calculation actually give us the idea that how much ATP produced from a particular substrate. Okay, and these actually many book refer that PO ratio. Actually this PO ratio is calculated like that, if one substrate taken, for each mole substrate, like if we are talking the NADH, so for each NADH substrate, how much mole of ATP formed. Okay, so how much phosphorylation occur with how much mole of oxygen, right? So this is expressed as P by O ratio. Actually this is 2.5 for NADH, and for succinate it is 1.5 only. Okay, for 90% of substrate we can calculate in such a manner, we can calculate the value of ATP we can get. So in this manner, based on this manner, we also can calculate an ideal value for any biological system, for any biological cycle, suppose citric acid cycle or maybe glycolysis. But in our body any systematic rule is not followed. Like if citric acid cycle occur, then there have no any other cycle occurring. Not such a sequence of rule is followed in our body. Whenever and whatever needed, then this cycle going on in our body. So yes, by this process we can imagine that this amount of energy may form, this amount of energy may produce by this substrate, but anything in our body is not so accurate. So yeah, this was all about the VTC. If this all discussion add really some value, then please hit the like button and subscribe this channel and press the bell icon to get the notification